I fixed it.
You made me shit
It's
myself.
okay. It's all good. As ever, you know, it's no one of our episodes unless I fuck things up right at the beginning. Anyway, I do it almost every week.
I thought you were fixing it, and I shot myself there when you went, oh! I'm like, fuck.
Ha, fucking ha. Hello and welcome to the Pod of the Damned. I'm your host, Ian.
Yeah.
And joining me, as always, is my co-host, Nico. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good, how are you?
Have you got new trousers on?
I do, because that made me poo.
Boomer says, I was going to say I don't think the sound was working. No, it very much wasn't working. I fucked it up. A silent episode would be very experimental. He says, we could do it like those proper old like Charlie Chaplin movies with like the cards coming up on screen with just what we actually want to say. And then us just being like... So... Anyways,
dun 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 dun. Sorry.
Where's She-Rat? She wasn't even wanting to be on the camera there. You're forced when you didn't want her on the camera, she comes on, and when she doesn't want to be on the camera, you force her on.
I guarantee she'll be on at some point. She's literally here.
Yep.
Like my hand is right above her head.
I give it about another 4.5 minutes before we see that butthole.
Oh my god, she started moving.
No, we didn't see it. So for those of you who are listening to this, on the download, this is the kind of fun shit that you miss when you don't watch our live episodes. You miss potential cats and cat butts.
Yeah.
So
you miss arseholes.
So
basically what.
I mean, they don't miss arseholes because they've got me and you.
They missed the third arsehole.
Okay. Anyways, right. We are a horror podcast that deep dives into a different topic every single week in our quest to create a leaderboard of the best and worst horror movies of all time. As Boomer says, we're shining a light today on a film I don't think many people have actually heard of. I hadn't heard from this. I heard of this until we decided we were going to review it. I thought it was pronounced Jays.
See, I know it was called Jaws because of Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's got a couple of sequels.
Yeah.
I've never heard of them.
But I've heard the sequels are banging.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Anyways, this is episode...
I've heard the best one's an underwater level place where they're doing shit, and it's amazing.
Anyways, this is episode 91, and in today's show, we're talking, of course, about the 1975 classic Jaws. Before we get into it, we'll do the quick pieces of housekeeping. If you'd like to support us across our social media platforms, you can do so. We're on X at Damn Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com. And you can subscribe to us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. Boomer says, I think you're going to have to start using a censor bar on all the kitties. You don't want to get Twitch banned. Would we get Twitch banned for a cat butthole?
I don't know. Is cat butts fucking someone that's dodgy?
Twitch is funny about all sorts of shit. Who gives a fuck? If we get banned from Twitch, we'll just move to YouTube.
If you get banned for Twitch for your cat walking in front of the camera, there's something wrong.
Yeah, there's something wrong with Twitch.
Exactly.
Twitch has been broken for a very long time. Anyways,
I liked it when girls were playing games and with their boobs out, but that's just me.
Wow. Okay.
I'm joking. I never actually joined Twitch till this bloody came on. You know that.
Okay.
But I did get told that's basically what it was.
Okay, if you say so. Nico. Just know that absolutely no one believes you.
But I don't care. It's the fucking truth.
Okay.
You know how technologically savvy I am. Why do you think you do all the technical work?
Yeah, that's why. What are you gonna do, Nico, if I take a holiday? You've been gallivanting away on your holidays, and I've been left behind here.
Sorry. I have a girlfriend called Zita, and she can help me with that shit.
Okay.
Well, amazing to hear a scream from the living room saying "fucking what."
Anyways, right, we're rabbiting on. Nico, you know the leaderboard. Where do you think Jaws is going to go on the leaderboard. This is the 87th movie that we'll have covered on the show.
I think it'll be top 10.
Top 10? And not any more than top 10?
I think it'll be the lower end of the top 10. I think it'll be 7, 8, or 9.
Okay. So currently in those places, in 7th place is Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, in 8th place is Dog Soldiers, and in 9th place is A Nightmare on Elm Street.
And I'm not going to lie, I'd rather watch the 3 of them than this.
Real? Okay, that's interesting. I thought that you'd be, really, obviously, if it's going to be top 10, we're going to be really high on it, but I thought you'd be, really, really high on it. I thought you'd be, 1, 2, or 3 levels high on it.
No, I'm don't get me wrong, I do like this movie, but it's one of those ones. The older it gets, the less you'll see it.
Okay. Well, we'll get into it.
Because it's that type of movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, it's from the 70s.
Yeah, but so was Halloween, and that's currently in 2nd place.
Yeah, but Halloween has a holiday behind it. You'll watch that for the nostalgic factor.
Well,
Where's Shark Day?
I mean, you've got The Omen as well, which is in 6th place. You gave The Omen a 10. That was 1976. That was only a year later.
Because it's fucking epic.
Okay. Anyways, Nick, Boomer's already offered to do the stand-in for when I'm on holiday. He says they'll call it Pervs of the Damned.
Pervs of the Damned. That sounds good to me.
Pervs of the Damned.
Still waiting for Naked in the Woods. But
Naked in the Woods, yeah. Naked in the Woods needs to happen. Well, Nico, you're a very difficult man to get hold of if you're not me.
I know, it's fucking
Because
hell.
you're just not active on any fucking social media whatsoever.
Talking about doing that, and I've waited to start doing 12-hour shifts 7 days a week.
Yep.
Great.
What a guy. Anyways, shall we talk about today's movie?
Nah, I'm just shooting bullshit with you.
Nah, you good? Are you good? Is that it?
I'm good. Nah, it's fine.
Okay. Well, fuck
Of course,
you.
let's get it.
Fuck you. Let's do it. Right, we're talking all about Jaws. This movie was released in 1975, was directed by Steven Spielberg, and stars Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. The IMDb plot is as follows. When a killer shark unleashes chaos on a beach community off Cape Cod, it's up to a local sheriff, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer to hunt the beast down. Okay, so you said there that this is one that maybe as time goes on, you'll watch less and less and less. Is that because you think it's aging badly?
It's not that it's aging badly, it's just people talk about it less and less, so you forget about it quite quickly. That's a problem.
So it's because you think it's quite forgettable?
No, it's not. It's forgettable.
But people are forgetting it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just the test of time. You know what I mean? It's like, folk, as soon as one person brings it up, everyone talks about it. But it's that one person bringing it up that needs to happen. You know what I mean?
It's interesting.
It's not like Halloween where it's got the holiday behind it. It's not like The Omen where you get onto that if folk are talking about religion. It's not got anything behind it. You know, the only way that folk bring up Jaws is if there's a shark attack, and that doesn't happen that often.
If people are talking about movies in the water, Jaws is always the first one that's brought up. It's seen as being the pinnacle, isn't it?
You say that, but I had a conversation in the bar the other day, and folk were talking about, what's it called? The one with LL Cool J. I forgot the name of it. They were talking about
Deep
that.
Blue Sea.
Yeah, they talked about that before they talked about this.
We've reviewed Deep Blue Sea.
Disappointed. Yeah,
do you remember
I was
that?
so disappointed. I do remember that.
It's currently in 67th place.
Yeah, but that's what I mean by the aging part. Saying that it was a lot of young people that were there.
Well, I mean, Deep Blue Sea itself is not a particularly new movie. It came out in 1999. Obviously, I know it's 24 years younger than Jaws, but it itself is now almost a quarter of a century old. So it's not like that's brand new out. And I wouldn't say that's a particularly that's not memorable enough, surely, to the point where people are remembering it over Jaws.
No, I'm just meaning the younger audience.
Yeah.
Brought that up first. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about stuff like that, This didn't get mentioned until I mentioned it. Put it that way.
That's
Because
interesting.
before that, they were talking about Sharknado and Lake Placid.
Lake Placid's about a crocodile.
I know. How do you think I felt about that? They
Oh.
mentioned Lake Placid before Jaws.
I mean, don't get me
I'm
wrong,
like,
I like Lake Placid because Betty White's fucking hilarious in it.
yeah.
And it's also got like a fucking shit hot cast, that movie. We will review Lake Placid one day. Because that's an interesting movie as well. When you think of like the big names that are in it. I just find it interesting. Like I don't know if we maybe just like mix in different circles, Nico. It's not something that I've ever come across. Like,
Yeah. Like, I'll talk about movies quite a lot. You know that.
yeah.
And I was very surprised at how far down this came. And the fact is, I don't think it would have been mentioned unless, if I wasn't there, it wouldn't have been mentioned, I don't think.
You know what, actually, maybe is actually testament to what you're saying is the fact that we are now, what did I say, 91 episodes deep, plus multiple mini-sodes and older podcasts and everything else. You know, I've been reviewing horror movies now for, what, 4 or 5 years? And this is the first time I'm reviewing Jaws. I never reviewed Jaws on the old show.
Yeah, and that sort of backs up the point. It's one of
that's...
those ones that, you know, it's a great movie, don't get me wrong. This is a superb movie. But the problem is, unless somebody mentions it, you're not really going to watch it. Or, as I said, if there's a shark attack happening somewhere in the world and it gets mentioned in the news, then you talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into like just how good a movie it is, in just a couple of minutes. But you could be onto something there. It's maybe the one thing that might just draw this movie back from sort of reaching that top sort of 5, top 3 sort of level, possibly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll check that out in a bit. We'll catch up with the chat. Boomer says, "I think you're kind of right about it in a way, Nico, but it's in most people's periphery." I think you're right. I think like that's what you're sort of getting at. Is like everyone knows about Jaws, like,
Yeah.
but sometimes maybe it's just not the first thing that comes into people's heads. Possibly to do with the fact that it is 48 years old as well.
Yeah.
Because I talked about this sort of briefly when me and Anna were doing Saw X, is that we got onto the subject of sort of like high number sequels and reboots and remakes and things, and I sort of got into the fact, and you'll know this as well. There are literally people that are out there who think, "Oh, that movie's from the 70s. That's going to be shit. I'm not going to watch it."
Yeah.
People.
A lot of people are like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who just will not watch an older movie.
Like, there was folk I was talking to, funnily enough, the same group of people, and they were saying, "Fucking, oh, is it in color?"
Is it in color?
Because they thought it was originally black and white, and then they introduced color into it because it's from the 70s. Because as soon as I said it was in the 70s, they're like, "Oh, so was it re-released in like the 80s and brought into color?" Because I've always seen it in color, and I'm like, "No, it was in color. Like, black and white wasn't 70s."
You need new friends, Nico. You need new friends.
This wasn't really friends. It was just folk at the bar. I was like, "Fucking hell!" I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Boomer also says this is one of the only movies where nothing else in the subgenre comes close to the quality of this of this film. I mean, how many shark movies are there? Countless. How many are even good? Well, that's one of the points I wanted to bring up, which we'll get onto in a second. Parker Dissects, though, does say, "Great, this is just the greatest movie ever made." Nico, what's actually the greatest movie ever made?
Lost Boys.
No, you see, you get that wrong every time. Every time you get that wrong. It's Halloween.
No, it's still Lost Boys.
It's Halloween.
It's the greatest 80s horror movie of all time. It is.
Oh, that's not what I asked.
That's
not what I asked. And also, this is the 70s we're talking about, so that's not what I asked.
I was just saying
I asked you for the greatest movie ever made, and you've jumped and went the greatest 80s movie ever made. Nico, really? I think we've lost Nico. I thought
Hello?
Nico just rage.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Nico just rage quit the call.
Should I tap something? As you can see, she's right here.
You're flicking.
And I was like,
you're flicking.
I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
You're flicking between this conversation and the booby streamers. That's what you're doing.
That's exactly it. Yeah. But no, as I was saying, in my personal opinion, Lost Boys is the best horror movie of all time.
Yeah, well, you're wrong. But anyways,
I'm not.
Boomer also says there's a lot of dumb people out there. The 70s is probably the greatest decade for horror. I mean, like, it's not it shouldn't be a controversial statement, that, but a lot of people will say it's a controversial statement because for a huge group of people, it's 80s or nothing.
See, I find, right, it's late 70s, early 80s. See, from like 74, 75 to like 85, 86.
Yeah.
That's the one that I love. You know what I mean?
Well,
That, if that was classed as a decade, that would be the best decade for
I
fucking
mean,
horror
it's
movies.
unfortunate that it's split in between 2 decades, but
Exactly.
I would also argue that the 2010s and the 2020s are just as fucking good. I think it's been an incredible time for horror in the past 10 years.
We can all agree it's definitely not the 90s.
Oh yeah, and the noise. Like, fuck those 2 decades.
Yeah. Like, those 2 decades, it was just regurgitated shite.
Parker also says he stands by my statement. I think, listen, again, we're going to get into it in more depth, but neither of us are sitting here saying that Jaws is a bad film by any stretch.
No.
We're probably going to go and spend the next hour absolutely praising the shit out of this film because I love it and I know Nico loves it, but I think it's just whether or not we class it in that sort of top echelon of horror movie, which is reserved for like a very, very few. But when you're talking about the 70s as well, you know, just look at the top 2 on our leaderboard right now. Alien 1979, Halloween 1978. You've got The Omen in our top 10, 1976. You know, so like 3 out of our top 10 is from that sort of late 70s. You've got a couple in the 80s as well. We've obviously got The Thing in there. We've got Reanimator, Nightmare on Elm Street, but there's just as much there from the 80s instead of the 70s. Nick, get your cat away from your computer.
It wasn't her this time. It just went mental.
Nico's having some technical issues. That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a shame. It's almost like the episode might just be better with you, Nico.
No, genuinely, it wasn't her this time. It just went. I'm like, what the fuck?
So let's talk about shark movies then, Nico. Obviously, even though what your point you made, we are in agreement that Jaws is the gold standard of shark movies.
Oh, hell yeah.
Is there anything...
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah. Is there anything else, though, that comes even, like, remotely close? Is there any other sort of shark movies out there that you think, you know what, it's not as good as Jaws, but it's still pretty fucking decent?
Not really, because they either try and go as far away from Jaws as possible to be different, or they try and clone Jaws, and it's just not going to work. And that's the problem with this, because this is the gold standard. It's just it doesn't work as well again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hence, that's why the sequels failed very miserably.
Yeah. I mean, we have reviewed Deep Blue Sea on the show.
Yeah.
We didn't hate it. You know, yes, it's in 67th place. But you gave it a 5. I gave it a 6 because, you know, I think there's some merit in it, and it's got some. It's tonally very, very different to Jaws.
Yeah.
But I would probably say, unless anyone in the chat can come up with some alternatives, I'd probably say that's like the next best thing. Possibly.
I'm gonna have to probably agree with you.
Unless there's probably a few out there that I've just not seen, and you know, I'm probably just forgetting some. But like, yeah. But when you think of the gap in quality between Jaws and that's huge, isn't it? And there's no other real sort of subgenre of horror where the gap in between like the best thing in that subgenre and the next best thing is so huge.
I know, and that's the thing. The sequels to this movie were sold on this movie because it definitely wasn't sold off their own butt, because they're fucking gosh.
Yeah.
They're a lot worse than Deep Blue Sea, you know what I mean? They're worse than Sharknado, some of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but Sharknado's obviously intentionally bad. Boomer says open water, 47 meters down, and the shallows are all okay. Yeah, but that's it. They're just okay.
Yeah, but that's it. That's what I was just going to say. They're all just okay.
Yeah, that's the point.
You'll watch them once, and that's it.
Right. Let's talk about, like, there's one thing that we need to talk about, and there's one person that we need to talk about, and it might not be the person that you think I'm about to talk about. We need to talk about John Williams.
I wonder why.
Right. Where does has there been a greater like scorer of cinema ever?
Yeah, Star Wars.
He did Star Wars.
That's what I mean.
No, but
Well, I'm
no,
just
I'm
saying
saying,
it's
has there been a better individual person than John
no, but
Williams?
Star Wars is his greatest work, and everything else is just below par.
I would,
It's like, that's the gold standard for him.
I disagree.
What do you think's better?
I think Jurassic Park's better.
Eh, it's okay.
No, no,
I
no,
would
no, no,
say
no.
that
Come on,
was
hold on a second. This isn't Jaws, where John Williams has his gold standard and everything else is just okay. Because I'm sorry, but the soundtracks to Jurassic Park, to Indiana Jones, to Star Wars, to fucking
see
E.T.,
in my
Home
order. In my
Alone,
order,
Harry
Jurassic
Potter,
Park
like
is
they're
third. Jurassic Park is third, behind Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
no,
Yeah.
it goes Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Indiana Jones.
Nah, you're wrong. Because as soon as you hear da 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 da, you instantly that's all you need. You know it's Indiana Jones.
I mean, but you could say that for all of his scores. What about all you need to hear is da da, and you know it's fucking Jaws.
Yeah, but that's what he's very good at getting a hook into you.
Well, that's the
No
point.
pun intended. But
Hey, I see what you
no
did there.
pun no pun intended. But with me, the I genuinely do like. Don't get me wrong, I do like Jurassic Park's one, but I think that's so far below Star Wars. It's unbelievable.
Listen, I have
I
no issue.
think it's just below Indiana Jones,
I
but
have no issues
it's
with you
so far.
thinking that Star Wars is the best. It's your comment that they're so far below Star Wars that it's just that's wild to me. I don't think anyone can sit there and say you can sit there and think that Star Wars is the best. Perfectly acceptable, perfectly justifiable answer. But to think that the rest of his scores are so far below Star Wars, I think is crazy.
I just think Star Wars is just it's the perfect score. Like if you changed any of it, it would fucking ruin the movie. I think.
But do you not think that for these other films?
Not really. Jurassic Park. There's a few times it's all right. You know what I mean? It's like,
I
but
think that could.
Indiana Jones as well. You know what I mean? Indiana Jones. It's just sheer brilliance. Indiana Jones.
I think, Nico, you've had some pretty wild takes on the history of this podcast. I think that could be like go down there as one of your wildest takes. That the score to Jurassic Park is just okay.
Oh no, it's a great score, but if you compare it to basically Star Wars, it's uncomparable. I
Where
think
does Jaws rank in that then?
Jaws would probably be about probably be fourth actually.
But I mean, how in like we're obviously because we're here to talk about Jaws. How integral is that score to this movie?
It makes the movie like it. Everyone takes the piss saying, "Oh, as soon as you hear the music, you know the shark attack is coming." But that's the fucking whole point of it. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have the best mechanical shark because the technology wasn't there, but they made the best of it with a score and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think
What they couldn't show, it put it in your head, and it was less is more again, because that theme was coming up, nah, nah, and then it builds and builds and builds, and then they show the shark. You already got it in your head that this thing's a fucking proper great white man eater instead of the latex covered piece of shit that you actually see.
I mean, that, like you say, that's the whole point of the score. That's the whole point of scores in any movie, is to build tension, is to, break tension, is to do that in specific parts in this movie. And, he's obviously tasked with this sort of tension building score, and that's exactly what he's done. It's absolutely perfect for what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree.
Anyways.
But it's still lower down than the other ones.
Listen, that's fine. That's fine. I have no issues with you ranking them the way you do. It's the gaps between your rankings that I take issues with.
Okay.
Anyways,
fair enough. I understand you, but I think it genuinely is that big.
So you've obviously said there though that the score for this makes the movie, but we do have our sort of main cast of characters here. We've got Roy Scheider, who plays Brody. You've got Robert Shaw, who plays Quint, and Richard Dreyfuss, who plays Hooper. there's this like there's this sort of weird, just like on-screen chemistry that those three seem to have throughout this film that sort of
Yeah.
seems like it would be difficult to replicate.
Yeah, and when I can't remember which one it was being interviewed by Parky, they said they kept on pushing each other into the water when scenes were stopped.
Yeah.
So they were like, having fun on set with it as well,
Yeah, I think it was,
which I think is quite cool.
I think it was possibly quite a difficult film for them to actually make. I don't think like the conditions for the film were particularly good. Apparently, Robert Shaw was a bit who was an alcoholic, was at times very difficult to work with. But they do seem to just be
Yeah.
able. They do seem to have this sort of camaraderie, doesn't it? And it does sort of filter through on screen. It's also like a very sort of change of pace for Roy Scheider as well, isn't it? Because he's not really playing like the tough man in this movie. And if anything, for Richard Dreyfuss's Hooper, Hooper's probably playing a tougher man than Brody.
Yeah. And it is like the three of them together are brilliantly acted. But the thing that was always going to make or break this movie was the shark. And because the shark wasn't that good, the score makes up for it.
Okay, I can tell that you're just like itching at the bit to talk about the shark.
The shark is shit. But
listen.
It was the best they could do. I get it.
It's 1975 though, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I watched it again earlier on, and I didn't sit there and go, I didn't mind it, to be honest. I didn't sit there and just be like, that's so fucking horrendous. At the end of the day, I think we've seen a lot fucking worse.
The fucking one at Planet Hollywood was better than the shark in this.
I mean, is it that bad?
Fuck it is fucking awful.
Is it
like
I
they,
don't know,
they've
like,
shot it well, put it that way. They've shot it well to cover it.
Well, of course. Like, listen, we'll talk about it as well, because at the end of the day, I think the shark in total gets about 3 or 4 minutes of screen time. It doesn't actually appear until pretty much slap bang in the middle of the movie. It's about an hour into the movie before it actually makes its first appearance. Part of that is obviously down to the fact that, it just didn't look great on screen.
Yeah. And I think Spielberg did exceptionally well.
But we've talked about this in previous movies about how less is more anyway. It's something that repeatedly does come up on this show, and we talked about in Alien, for example, our current number one movie. About how little screen time that the xenomorph actually gets in that movie and how that works to its benefits. We've talked about in multiple other movies as well, and suddenly like the names of all those movies that I'm talking about is just like escaping from my brain. But if you think about it, like Hellraiser was the other one. How little screen time the Cenobites get in that movie. I get, and potentially in those movies, it wasn't necessarily to hide maybe the poor quality of sort of the makeup or the effects or anything like that, but it definitely can work in a movies like this's favor, especially I think in a movies like when you're talking about movies from the 70s and the 80s as well. It's just tonally different movies to what's being released now. There's so much more you can do now with score, with effects, with on screen, with makeup that you just couldn't do back in the 70s and the 80s. So tonally they were very different, and less is more maybe isn't quite necessarily applied as much to modern horror movies.
Yeah, I think in the 70s and 80s, because they didn't have the things that we've got nowadays, they would tend to zoom into a person's face and just see all the emotion of that person. They'd have to get it in that frame. They would have to get all the emotion over. And you got a lot better actors coming out of that because of that.
Yeah, because you're relying so much more on actual emotion of the actor.
Yeah.
Rather than what's going on around them.
Yeah. So I get what you're meaning. I get what you're saying. This is a really good movie for that. Like, you take the scene where the woman goes up to him and slaps his face, for example.
Yeah. Felt bad for him in that scene.
Well, that bit, it's one of those moments where it's like you can feel her pain and anguish. You know what I mean? And and he does look shocked and scared at the same time. which is very well acted on his behalf as well.
Yeah.
So the actors in this are really, really good, and I'm not going to deny that. And this movie is a very, very good movie.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is about the shark is you can tell it was shit. Put it that way, because you know what I mean.
Okay. You're not a fan of the shark, but I think it does that sort of lack of reliability you have on your sort of effects, can have its pluses in other places, and like you say, especially during this time period, it potentially just produced better general actors. Don't get us. That's not us saying that actors now are shit, because there's some incredible actors out there. But I think maybe because when you talk about that woman in that scene, I don't know who the fuck she is. Like I've like, apart from the only thing I've ever seen her, I'm aware that I've seen her in, is this movie. So it's not like she was a particularly massive, well-known actor. She's not a household name or anything like that. And she only gets a couple of scenes in this movie, but you can clearly see how good an actress she actually is in that scene.
Yeah.
Anyways, right, let's catch up with the chat, because there's been quite a few things going through. Boomer says Quint is dirty fisherman sexy. There's a lot these three could have gotten up to in a 3-hour tour. Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure Hooper would be the one in the middle if that was the case. But anyway,
some good scrubbing of the poop deck there. He also says, I like how Robert Shaw is always... Are you okay, Nico?
Oh, so fucking wrong.
I like how Robert Shaw is always drinking. He's like, yeah, my character definitely would have a beer at all times. Yeah.
Nothing to do with him being an alky at the time, no.
No, but he's probably like, he's our sort of, he's our biggest character, isn't he, in terms of personality? We've obviously got, he's playing like the outrageous one, and he
overacts it to perfection at certain points and reels it back in.
Yeah, he's absolutely.
There's that bit on the boat, where he's.
Oh yeah, Jaws, that bit on the boat.
Johnny Depp would look... No, it's that bit on the boat where it's.
That bit on the boat. Half the fucking film's on the boat.
So anyway, it's that bit on the boat where he's talking about him, and then he's like, shit, the shark's coming, basically. And he's like going on about it to him. And he's totally overacting that, and then he just reels it back in with one line and goes, right, because you've done that, we'll get this done instead. And it's overacted to the point where it's like fucking Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean, but instead of going further, he reels it back in. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely chewing up the scenery at some points, and then some points, he's being the complete opposite. It's a perfect performance, and I think it's definitely the sort of performance of the movie. Is that of Quint, and you know that because generally when you Jaws fans out there, I think Quint is kind of everyone's favorite, isn't he?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that his character might have some outdated views.
Yeah, who's your favorite?
Quint's is the best one, isn't he?
Yeah.
Boomer says that he thinks that the shark is actually really good. It just didn't work very well. They couldn't get the thing to swim right. So he thinks the actual thing itself looks good, but they just couldn't get it to like work right.
Genuinely, I remember being on that Universal tour in Florida, and that thing looked better than this.
Okay. He also says dog soldiers, in terms of the less is more, even though they show the wolves, they knew they couldn't do a proper transformation, so they did it behind a couch. Yep, stuff like that as well. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Werewolf films, I think, in particular, can be, sometimes the biggest offenders of this sort of not less is more when they try and show you the transformation scene. He thinks Nico would be happy.
The one I always remember that's awful is you mentioned werewolf scenes. Is have you seen Full Eclipse, the Mario Van Peebles one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember how bad that transformation scene is? And that ruins that film. It's actually half decent until then, because they're like half vampire, half werewolf things. Sorry, so they look more like vampires. So
Yeah.
it's actually quite cool. There's basically no transformation, and then when they go full wolf, you're just like, yeah, lost me, bye.
Okay, we've just spent a bit of time talking about characters we like. Let's talk about a character that I don't know about you, but I think's a fucking dickhead. Let's talk about the mayor.
Oh Jesus! See, right now, if you're gonna have a movie like this, you need to have a villain other than the shark,
You got the mayor.
and he is definitely the fucking villain. He is. Yeah, we got to keep businesses open. We've got to keep money flowing in. We can't do any of that shit. So, like straight away, the first one, Brody's like, we need to shut the beaches.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, you can't do that on bank holiday weekend. Fuck me, do you care how much we'd lose? Fuck you, you cunt.
It feels I don't know about you, but watching it again because this is the first time I've rewatched this movie in quite a few years. I've seen this movie many times, but I haven't watched it for the last few
Yeah,
years. It did kind of remind me of COVID times. You know, where people were like, "Oh, like businesses need to keep earning money, and like we need to send people back out and unlock and get everyone back out there." But there's still this like killer virus out that's gonna kill everyone. It did kind of remind me of that.
was a different way, but yeah, it's sort of yeah, I get where you're going with that. But he's more like, well, I'm not going to be the first mayor that's fucking lost money for this town. That's what he's
I
more
mean,
like.
I think,
And you're like, you're a prick. You're costing folk lives.
yeah, playing devil's advocate. I mean, it's not just a case of he's going to cost people some money. If you shut down the town, he potentially was costing that town its future. It could be the case that no one
Not
would ever come back.
one holiday weekend wouldn't make that
You
much
you
difference.
know that
He's
you know this kind of industry just as well as I do, and you know what sort of damage that kind of press would do.
yeah, but that's the thing. What kind of press like he's made the wrong decision. How much folk died and made it even worse. But according to the sequels, it had no impact on fucking folk on air, did it?
Yeah, but we're not paying attention to the sequels, are we?
Thank fuck.
We're not paying any attention to the sequels whatsoever. Um, and yeah, and that's what makes that scene as well with the mother even worse because she blames Brody for it, and Brody was trying to get the beaches shut.
Aye. But definitely it's his decision in the long run. And he's just not wanting fired, so he's thinking of his own ass as well.
But you
If
think
you
about,
think about it.
but it's not even that in that initial sense. Even after the scene where the kid dies, and he's still like unwilling to sort of shut the beaches.
Yeah.
You know,
Like it's not until his kid could have got eaten
yeah.
that he even contemplates it. Now he's in shock. Brody basically still forces him to do it,
And
you know
even
what I
in
mean?
that scene as well, because you got that scene on the beach where no one's actually, they're all at the beach, but none of them are going in the water. And he actually forces a family to go into the water.
Yeah.
Like, that's what makes him the real villain for me. There's no need for that. Like, the tourists were all there, they were at the beach, none of them wanted to go in the water. He shouldn't really have cared. The tourists were still there.
Yeah, he's on the end of it. Oh, everyone needs to have a good time or else.
Yeah.
And I've seen holiday reps that are like that. It's fucking funny. Those are the ones that somebody ends up breaking a leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, oh look, bottle of champagne over the side of the boat. Everyone go jump in. I can't swim. Jump in only way you'll learn. That type of cunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's he, he's a fucking dick. Like honestly, he annoys me because fucking Brody is trying to save lives, and this is the guy that is basically overruling him and going, "No, we're gonna wait till a few more bodies basically get ingested."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Anyways, one thing this movie definitely does have is, regardless of how good or not you think it is, some of the most iconic moments in cinema.
Yeah,
It just absolutely does. And one of those moments, we'll talk about a few of them. One of those moments is the Jaws shot, as it's traditionally known as, and it's the shot where Brody realizes that there's a kid dying in the water, and you have the dolly running towards him in the background, going away. I don't really know how to describe it. People who are maybe more technically minded than me will be
where
able
it
to.
zooms into him and fucking it
Yeah,
zooms out at
like
the same
it
time.
zooms
Yeah,
into him, but the background zooms out. I think that's how
yeah,
it kind of works. That's a great shot, isn't it?
that is. exceptionally well
Yeah.
done. Like it's that whole, it brings the tension straight to his face, and he projects that emotion straight away. Like, oh fuck, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, there's not much to analyze for me and you in terms of that, other than just to say that was fucking fantastic. Like,
Yeah,
what a great moment, not just in this movie, but what a great moment. Can you imagine like seeing this in the like? I know you might be a bit older than me, Nico, but even you weren't born in 1975. Like, can you imagine
no,
seeing that for the first time in the cinema in 1975 and just that moment? That would be fucking incredible.
yeah, because it'd be the first time it's done as well. Because it's been copied so much time since. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like you see it like there's so many movies now. Like that's the moment that's really fucking just imitated everywhere. That's kind of been like the gold standard of that kind of moment.
Yeah, because I remember it even being in, like, it was an NFL fucking thing. It's like an American football one. Can't remember the name of the movie, and the guy gets injured, and just as the guy gets injured, it zooms into the coach's
Yeah.
face exact same way, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Boomer says this movie, for good or bad, is so influential. I can't even begin to remember how many films go with the person in power ignores the danger trope. Brody's job was on the line. He's not an elected official, so if he didn't do what the mayor wanted, the mayor would have just fired him and found someone who would. Not saying it's right, but would have been terrifying. And we're just going to get on to Boomer's next point because his next point's about the cold opening. The cold open of this movie is one of the craziest ever. It's so harrowing. When the girl is screaming before disappearing under the water, just chills. That's one of the other sort of iconic moments. There's a couple more, but that cold opening is again one of the most sort of memorable openings to a horror movie there is out there.
Yeah.
Fuck. And listen, also, by the way, if I was that guy, I would not have passed out on that beach.
Why not?
I'd have been straight in there after her. I'd be deed as well, but it would be worth it.
To be honest, yes, I get what you're meaning, but would you? Would you really risk your neck like that?
I mean, I'm talking about before she was attacked, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
even know that the shark was out there.
See, I'd have been skinny dipping ball before. I'd probably get eaten before her.
Yeah, it is a great scene though.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that people knew that this was a shark movie going into it in 1975. So the fact that she was killed in the water, I don't think is probably a big shock to anyone. But like again, the performance from her as well, the sort of the death scene that she gives is pretty great.
Yeah. It is really cool.
Um,
Like it's one of those iconic ones as well. You know what I mean? Like, you talk to folk and they're like, "Oh yeah, you see the shark at the start," and you're
no,
like, "No,
no,
you don't.
no, you don't. Well,
No, you really don't."
well, this is the other thing that I want to talk about because it goes in with my other iconic scene that I want to mention is the Mandela effects that are in this movie. Because there's actually a
Yeah.
couple of them, and one of them is that people think they see the shark in that opening scene. They actually don't.
Yeah.
The other one is during the you're going to need a bigger boat scene because it's you're going to need a bigger boat, and people generally think it's we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah. And the kid that gets torn to pieces, when you see the bit float up, everyone thinks you see him on that thing get beaten.
Yeah,
Get beaten, get eaten.
yeah,
And like, folk are like, "Yeah, it's the kid getting eaten that's the
yeah.
hardest bit," and I'm like, "You don't see that, mate."
Yeah. One of the things, going back to that sort of you're going to need a bigger boat scene and tying it into Quint's death as well, slightly later in the movie, is, we've talked a lot there about the score and John Williams and, how much that supplements. But during those scenes, there's absolute silence. And we've talked, again, it's something else that we've talked about is sometimes, the use of silence is just as an important part of a score than the actual score
Yeah.
itself. And
Yeah.
when he's throwing the chum out into the water and the shark just appears, that's such like a bone chilling moment. And again, just like in that Jaws shot,
I the
yeah, just like in that Jaws shot, Roy Scheider plays it perfectly, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's that whole, he even freezes for a second. It's brilliant, you
Yeah,
know. It's that proper. Yep. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. What the fuck? And it's played perfectly.
yeah,
Like, I think they got the three main guys perfectly done.
yeah. And again, but it goes as well to the Quint's death scene, which when he's struggling with the shark, that's all done in complete silence as well. Obviously, you
Yeah.
hear all the splashing about and the screaming, but there's no score accompanying that. In fact, I don't know, there's just something about it that makes it so much more chilling.
Yeah. Because that one is hard to take, but nah, fucking this movie has so many like quotes in it as well that are misdone.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, you've got a
And
ton of fucking quotes. I mean, I don't even want to. I can't even remember the one about the woman who's 103.
aye, but they even lighten the mood. Do you know what scene I like when they're singing on the boat?
Yeah.
They lighten the mood, and it's a great little scene thrown in.
Well, yeah, it's
And
it's
that only came about because they got pissed and was singing in one of the bars.
but that's it though, because I think that's absolutely key because it builds that relationship between the characters. Because I think without that scene, I don't think Quint's death would have meant as much.
Yeah,
Because up until that point, even though people are like maybe Quint's their favorite, there's not that relatability to him, And then they
yeah,
get that scene where they're sort of comparing their scars and their war wounds, and he tells a
yeah,
story about Hiroshima and all of that. And then the characters all start to have that understanding. So for him to then die, 10, 15 minutes later into the movie, I think that makes it so much more hard hitting.
yeah. That bit with the boat where like Hooper knows, what I mean, he knows the story behind it,
Yeah.
and his face just drains. And then when he starts telling Brody, it sort of unifies all three of them
Hmm.
very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So it is really good.
Yeah. Listen, ultimately, this is a movie that made people were afraid to go into the water
Yeah,
after watching this. Like this made
yeah,
more than an entire generation afraid of the ocean. And the ocean can be a scary place anyway. There are people out there who are afraid of the ocean anyway. But
yeah.
I don't know about like it might not be that the forefront of your thoughts, but I'm sure we've all been in the water in the sea at some point, and it's the thought has crossed our minds.
I've been in places where I know there's sharks. Fuck me, that place I was in Turkey, there was a kid attacked there next to the Turtle Beach bit. Like, and we were there, and one of the guys was saying, "Oh, it was only like 2, 3 weeks ago,"
I mean,
and we're like, "What the fuck?"
we get sharks here.
Yeah, but we get the biggest sharks in the world that eat plankton. There's a total difference.
Sometimes I think you've got the brain cells of plankton.
Yeah, okay. But we in Scotland, you get the biggest sharks in the world.
You do? You do? Actually
Yeah.
do. It probably, you know
It,
what? Probably here. The dolphins are probably more dangerous here.
uh, they'll fuck you to
Because
death.
dolphins are fucking cunts.
Well, they actually do like
Yeah,
pulling folk do and then letting
yeah,
them go, just to watch them float and then save them. You're like
yeah.
fucking little bastards.
Yeah, dolphins
And
are.
also, they do like humping them folk, so they'll
Yeah.
hump you and
They'll hump.
drag you down whilst
They'll
humping
hump
you.
you. They'll hump you and drown you.
Yeah,
Yeah, lovely
like
fun.
that's a way to go. Could you imagine? You imagine if the pearly gates exist and he goes. So how did you die? Fucked to death by a dolphin. It's a story. You know what I mean?
It is a story. I'll give you that. It is a story.
Like you can, you'd be standing at the bar, and there's one of Bundy's victims or something.
Yeah.
I was killed by Bundy. I was fucked to death by a dolphin. You win. See you later.
Um, I want to talk about the sort of finale to this movie, where obviously we've got Brody who's on the sinking boat trying to shoot the gas canister. I think one of the things
And that's a Mandela effect as well, by the way, because everyone thinks. What's the line he says?
as
Everyone thinks.
is it not just give me a smile or something? I can't remember what it is. Let me.
I can't remember the one that they confuse it for. Is it not smile for me, you little bitch, or something like that? Something along that line.
Something.
And everyone, like every fucker, says the same thing.
It's smile for me, you son of a, and then no, it's no, actually it's not. That's the effect. It's smile, you son of a explosion. But I think everyone thinks it's smile for me.
Aye, that's it.
Yeah.
and everyone thinks it's "smile for me, you son of a bitch," and thinks that he says the bitch as well.
Yeah, no,
And you're
that's
like, that whole thing's wrong.
yeah. I think they also confuse it with what is it? Is it Predator? You're you're one ugly motherfucker.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of similar, isn't it? No, but
So
the reason I want to talk about that final scene is so obviously like you've got him on the mast trying to blow up the gas canister. One of the things I really really love about this finale is even though Brody's our main character, but for the second half of the movie there kind of is no main character because we've just got these three.
aye.
The fact is that we know that Hooper is still alive underwater. I think adds to the tension of that final scene because I'm genuinely not sure if Brody's gonna survive or not.
Yeah.
Because these kind of there's all there was someone's gonna survive.
Yeah.
You know
And I like the fact that he misses as well.
he misses
So
5
he's shooting.
times.
Exactly. I like that. Because everyone's like, oh, fucking bang, easy peasy. But no, the whole fucking shooting and it actually misses. I like that because that's more realistic. You know what I mean?
But that's
The
again.
nerves, that must be the tension, that it must be the fucking, the fact that he's not the one that shoots folk and on.
Yeah. But
It's good.
that's again one of the things I really love about this. He's our main character, but he's shown to be sort of fallible at multiple points in this movie. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing on a boat. When they are on the boat, he's kind of like third wheeling Hooper
Yeah.
and Quint because they're just like they're just making him be the one that like chucks the fish heads over the side of the boat.
The bromance is them two, not him. And I
Yeah,
like that.
like when the shark does appear, he like panics and just starts shooting
Yeah.
at it with his actual gun. So he is shown to not be perfect, and I think as well that makes him so much more relatable too.
Yeah.
So I just love the whole dynamic. Like I say, I thought having us know that Hooper was still alive going into that sort of final showdown actually upped the stakes a little bit for Brody because it meant they could theoretically kill him off and just have Hooper be your lone survivor.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting choice and I thought it really helped add to the tension of the final scene.
Yeah. I know. I 100% agree with you. I've got nothing else to say on that because I agree wholeheartedly.
I think this is one of the tough ones I think to cover because you know we've talked about how you might not have this in like your top 3, but this is still one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It just is.
Oh, 100%.
Like and I, to be
100%.
honest with you, I probably feel maybe slightly higher on it than that, but I'm probably in a pretty similar boat. Like if I was to sit there and be forced to name like a top 5 personally, I probably wouldn't have Jaws in it. But it's
Yeah.
one of those ones that's definitely up there for me. But sometimes I actually find these movies sometimes more difficult to review than
Yeah, because
some of the
the weird
shit
thing about this
ones.
is normally we can argue over the shit ones, what's good, what's not. There's not a lot to argue about in this because I'm pretty sure you're in the same mindset as me. It's a very good movie, and
Yeah, but
it's
even previously when we have covered other movies that we generally agree that are great, we still end up having some sort of discussion points. Over Halloween, we definitely that had some discussion points over that movie. More probably because of the fact that I gave it a 9.8, and that really pissed you off.
yes,
Um,
fucking dick.
just wait till I
Should have
give
just been a 10, and that was it.
just wait till I give this a 9.7.
Oh, fuck off.
Anyways. Boomer says it's probably not in his top 5, but it's one I would watch before a lot of those. And they do kill the dog in this one. Do kill the dog? Well, do they kill the dog? There's never definitive proof that the dog actually gets killed.
Yeah, the dog does die, doesn't it?
We don't see the dog die. The dog's in one scene, not in the next, and we see his bit of wood floating in the water, but there's no definitive proof that the
It's
dog died. Also, by the way,
it's suggested.
who the fuck calls their dog Pippet?
I know.
What? He sounds like an
The
absolute.
fucker that named him deserves to die.
It sounds like an absolute cunt there on the beach, just being like Pippet. That's the
Do that
annoying.
again.
Pat pat
Do that again.
pat pat.
That's got to be the fucking song caption for this one. Pat pat.
No, yeah, they suggest that
Pat
the dog
pat.
is dead, but there's no definitive
Yeah,
proof that the dog actually dies.
it maybe just use that to fake its death and get a decent owner that wouldn't have cut Pip it.
Boomer says, "Where did the dog go then? Did he realize there was a shark and was just like, fuck this, I'm out?" Possibly.
No, what he did was he grabbed onto the fin, so when it sunk back down, he's like, "I'll get a lift." And then he popped up and he swam to shore. There was a light out, so he couldn't that was far to go. And then he faked his own death. So what he did was he got out the water, he changed into his civvies, like he put on his suit, and he just went into his new job.
What was his new job, Nico?
He was a roving reporter.
Okay.
You okay there?
Yeah, I'm fine. That's quite the tale.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's really the dog's bollocks, to be honest.
There it is. Anyways, Nico, is there anything else about Jaws that you want to talk about?
Oh, the only bit of trivia I know, apart from them pushing each other in the water all the time and getting pished a lot, is the mum that we were talking about went to the restaurant of the son, saw it on the menu, and said, "I played that wifey." And the chef come running back, and it was the kid.
Yeah. Do I actually?
I know that because that was on Parky, I think it was.
I saw that piece of trivia. I don't think I've got it written down in my trivia. Thank you for saving it for the trivia section, Nico.
Yeah, but I got to get it before you because you just steal. Like, I don't know a lot of trivia about Jaws apart from the interview stuff because they basically, when they were interviewed, said, "Right, I got pished with this cunt, I got pished with that cunt, I got pished with this cunt, I got pished with that cunt." That's pretty much it.
Okay. Right. Well, with that being said, then shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about some trivia. As always, we'll start off with the finances of the movie. According to IMDb, this movie had a budget of $7 million, which in 1975 was a pretty big was a pretty huge budget. However,
was not a lot of it on the shark though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worldwide, it has grossed $476.5 million. So from your initial $7 million investment, that's pretty good.
That's fucking exceptional.
And that's just, worldwide box office gross. That's not including, streaming rights that it's got now. That's not including merch sales or anything else. All that associated stuff. So this was no wonder they made 3 sequels. The 3? Yeah, Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, and Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Revenge is definitely the worst one. Like, they progressively get worse. I've never seen sequels that genuinely the second one is worse than this. The third one's worse than the second, and the fourth one is just don't even bother.
No. Okay, right. I have shockingly about this movie a ton of trivia. So I'm just gonna fire through some of it. According to the director, when on the scene where they discovered Chrissy's remains, that's the girl from the opening scene, the prop arm looked too fake, so instead they just buried a female crew member in the sand with just her arm exposed.
Fuck. That's mental.
So yeah, that's what happens. When composer John Williams originally played the score for Steven Spielberg, apparently Spielberg just laughed at him and said, "That's funny, John, really, but what did you have in mind for the theme?"
No. I think it's perfect as well for the shark.
Spielberg later stated that without Williams' score, the movie would only have been half as successful, and according to Williams, it jump-started his career. So yeah, Spielberg was originally like, "Hi, right, where's the real score?"
Come on, you really got to eat.
This movie was, of course, the birth of the summer blockbuster as well, because traditionally, up until this point, movies that were released in the summer were kind of consigned to being flops and failures and didn't do very well. But over 67 million people in the US went to see this film when it was initially released in 1975, which is what, about 1/5 of the population at the time?
Fuck.
That's pretty fucking, that's quite something.
It'll be all the ones that could afford to go.
Yeah. It opened on June 20th, 1975. It was supposed to be released in theaters for Christmas 1974, but the shooting schedule ran way over, and it was pushed back to the summer. So it wasn't meant to be a summer release. Summers were, as I said, traditionally when the worst movies were dumped into theaters, as Americans typically enjoyed the outdoor instead. But the film was so good, beachgoers actually flocked to see it, and the movie became the highest grossing film of all time up to that point. It became the first film to gross over $100 million in theatrical rentals, which is the figure the studio nets after the theaters take their cut, so that's roughly half the box office, and therefore the summer blockbuster was born.
Yeah.
So yeah. The scene where the head pops out.
But the thing is, if you've got something of this quality compared to the movies that they had at the time, if it's this quality and you're surrounded by shite, every man and his dog's going to see you. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's it. That's it though as well. Like, the birth of the summer blockbuster. Well, they weren't releasing blockbusters in the summer, so they decided to release one in the summer. Therefore, a summer blockbuster was born. The scene where the head pops out from the hole in the boat was not originally scripted. Steven Spielberg said he got greedy after he saw the preview audience's reactions to the scene where the shark jumps out behind Brody's head, and he wanted one more scare. We didn't even talk about that scene. That's probably the biggest fucking jump scare in the film.
Yeah. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It is probably the oh my fuck. But
yeah. It's well known that the shark is called Bruce, as is, a homage paid to in Finding Nemo. You got Bruce the shark. The shark is known as Bruce. There were 3 mechanical Bruces, each with specialized functions. One shark was open on the right side, one was open on the left, and the third was fully skinned. Each shark cost approximately $250,000.
fuck.
So it cost.
Saying that, I bet you could. Wonder how much that would be in nowadays terms.
I think you're about triple, so you're probably looking at $750,000.
Oh, it's more than triple, I'm sure.
Not for 75.
Really?
Yeah. Let's look it up. Nico, fill for time.
So yeah, Brody is a fucking bit of a dick to his wife. I have noticed that in the movie. He does like to just fucking. He does like to mansplain and be a bit dickish to her, and then next minute be huggy. He's a bit controlling.
You think?
No, really, I'm just trying to fill in. Do you like that?
You know what? You're
His
right.
son's.
You're very much right. It's more than triple. It's actually closer to. It's about 8 times as much.
So about 2 million each,
So
basically.
2 million each. Yeah.
Fuck. I thought that because I'm sure it'd be like $1.5 million or something
Yeah.
nowadays. I was off myself, but still.
Speaking of Robert Shaw, Robert Shaw, despite how much money this made, didn't earn a single penny from Jaws. He only decided to act in this movie because he was facing heat from the IRS for tax evasion, and due to working in countries as diverse as the US, Canada, and Ireland, he had to forego his salary for this movie to make amends.
Ouch.
That's a sore one.
That is, especially for how much it made.
Yeah. To create the sound of a drowning woman during the post-production, get this.
They drowned a woman.
They waterboarded a woman. They hung her upside down, head upturned.
That's not waterboarding.
It's pretty much head upturned in front of a microphone and poured water into her throat.
Still not waterboarding.
It's close enough, Nico.
Waterboarding is where you
I'm
put it
aware
over
of
your face, the mask.
it's close enough.
Well, the waterboarding's
It's
worse
close
because it
enough.
gets into your lungs. It's not.
It's close enough.
Definitely
Okay,
not.
you can fit right. Okay, next time I see you, Nico, I'll hang you upside down and I'll pour some water down your upturned throat, and we'll see how much you like it.
Okay, and then I'll waterboard you and see how much you like it.
You say you're gonna
And then you'll see the difference, and you'll be dying.
Okay, that's fine. And in my head there, I thought you said you were gonna motorboat me. To be honest,
To be honest, I've got the titties now.
you've done it before.
I think I have actually.
Okay, get this right. The producers initially wanted to train a real great white shark for this film, but quickly,
Come on, Bruce! Come on!
quickly realized that it was impossible to do, so created the mechanical versions.
Come on, Bruce! Bite the fucker's leg off. Good, Bruce. Go on. Here you go.
Okay, a couple of people were offered some of the roles in this movie. How would you have felt if Quint was played by Oliver Reed?
Definitely better.
You thought that would have been better than Robert Shaw?
100%. I love Oliver Reed.
But Robert Shaw's perfect in this film.
He's good, but Ollie, come on.
Okay, what about if... I've got quite a few here for Brody. What if he was played by Gene Hackman?
No.
No? Charlton Heston?
Oh, maybe.
Jeff Bridges?
Yes, please.
Or John Voight?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I would have rather had the two of them. Could you imagine them but Oliver Reed? They would never got any filming done.
I think they cast this perfectly. Steven Spielberg got a bit big-headed about this movie. He was so sure that he was going to win the Oscar for Best Film that he had a news crew film him and his crew watching the Oscars at a special party. But Jaws did not win, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest did instead.
Yeah. You can't beat Jack.
Say
that, he was DiCaprio, so was he?
Yeah. This was only the second ever horror movie to be nominated for Best Picture after The Exorcist. So, which also didn't win. That also didn't win. Boomer says John Voight, but with the Anaconda accent. Jesus.
With Oliver Reed getting pished every 2 seconds, being that drunk he couldn't stand up like in Prince and Pauper, that would be epic. Like,
as I said earlier, this was the highest grossing horror film for over 20 years until it was surpassed by The Sixth Sense in 1999.
Fuck.
So, there you go. And finally, the shark, as I said earlier, also has 4 minutes total of screen time. Less is more, Nico. Less is more.
Just 4 minutes.
Just the 4 minutes. Anyways, anything else that you want to trivialize about this movie?
No, because I gave you all my trivia already.
Yeah, just in case something had maybe, set
I
something.
would have definitely loved to have seen fucking Ollie doing this though.
No, I think they've cast this perfectly. I wouldn't have wanted to see anyone else do this. Anyways, shall we move on?
Go for it.
Okay, we're going to our final section of the show, which as always is the ratings and the reviews. As always, we will start off with the critics' scores. IMDb have scored this movie an 8.1 out of 10. Metacritic have scored it 8.7. Nico, what do you think the Rotten Tomatoes critics and the Rotten Tomatoes audience have scored this movie?
I'd say about 82 and 88.
You're under on both. The Rotten Tomatoes critics scored this 97%.
Fuck.
The Rotten Tomatoes audience scored it 90%.
Shit.
Critics' consensus is compelling, well-crafted storytelling and a judicious sense of terror ensure Steven Spielberg's Jaws has remained a benchmark in the art of delivering modern blockbuster thrills.
Yeah.
As always, we throw it out to you guys, our listeners and audience, and ask for your scores and opinions on the movie. I think you can probably guess at which end of the scale almost everyone was at, but we will still read out some of your opinions. Elaine McKay on Twitter says, gives that a 10. I can't think of anything I'd change in it. Shiv Shines gives it a 9 out of 10, and only because there wasn't a big enough body count for me, I actually liked Jaws 2 the most.
Get out. Whoever put that, just
She does say, I know. But making the children the target and adding the personal aspect of the chief heightened the threat that made me feel a little more desperate to get this thing. The Haven't Seen It podcast gave it a 10, one of the best films of all time and a Spielberg classic. I try to see a screening of it every summer. Alaska Girl 88 also gives it a 10. It had everything, perfect build up. The slow build tension was spot on, excellent score work, fantastic camera work, amazing characters. The acting was chef's kiss. This movie is often imitated, but never surpassed. Our good friend Newman over at Movies for Days podcast also gives it a 10 out of 10. Basically, a perfect movie. Excellent structure, effective blending of music, cinematography, and creature effects to sell a difficult illusion. Wonderful writing, marvelous characters, and the best cast one could hope for gave birth to the summer blockbuster and a million rip-offs.
yeah.
Boomer, who's in the chat, gave it a 9.5 out of 10. One of the most whimsical, entertaining, and yet scary films you will ever see. The movie single-handedly was the reason I would check the pool when I was younger to make sure it was safe. What are you checking?
Check the pool.
What are you checking the pool for, Boomer?
I know.
That's
Fucking,
that's not the ocean.
The only thing I check a pool for is some shit in it. You know what I mean?
Oh, lovely. Joe Smart gives it an 8 out of 10. Jaws was the last commercial film where Spielberg didn't make every creative decision based on keeping the audience happy. The second victim is a child, so no one in Jaws is safe. In Jurassic Park, you always know which characters are going to be monster meat, which is boring. I don't think I've ever heard anyone call Jurassic Park boring before. We had a debate about the score earlier, but it's not boring, right?
I sort of get what you mean because it is like I rewatched it recently and it is very, very like these are surviving to the end.
I'm not going to talk to you about this anymore because I'm sick of this Jurassic Park slander. To be quite honest with you,
Hey, I love
Boomer in the
Jurassic
chat.
Park. You know that.
Boomer in the chat says because I'm a little bitch.
Well, that's the thing. I love Jurassic Park, but rewatching it, you do see a lot of it that it's telegraphed.
I'm not prepared to listen. Francis Lalonde says he gives it a 10. Took a plodding, convoluted novel with several assorted subplots and whittled it down to the essentials. And finally, a good friend of the show, Wren, gives it a 10 out of 10. That's high praise from Wren. I don't think Wren gives out many 10s. Objectively, a top 3 horror film of all time and easily in the top 10 of all films. So not just horror films, he thinks this is just a top 10 film.
Yeah.
To this date, there hasn't been a more effective horror film as people are still scared to go into the ocean because of this movie. Has arguably the greatest opening in all of horror, one of the most iconic scores, a perfect cast of actors, and each exceeding the mark of what was asked of them, and a rare exception to the film. This rare exception to the film outdoes the book by a lot. We didn't really even talk about the book. I've not read it. Have you read it?
I know. I've not read it either. To be honest,
sounds like we just shouldn't. He goes on to say, this movie is still terrifying today at 48 and is absolutely a film that should never be touched with a remake.
And yet there's meant to be one coming.
Get me up, Doug. Listen, I'll get fucking right back up there on my high horse.
Well, there is meant to be one coming.
Fine. That's fine. Fill their boots. If this film doesn't shoot right to number 1 on your list with a bullet from Brody's rifle, then I will have lost all faith in humanity.
Well, we did discuss him missing several times, so he's not getting straight to number 1, is he?
Do we need to review this 6 times? I feel like that's very Halloween and be like 6 times, 6 times. We've reviewed this movie 6 times.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Oh, dear. Okay, Nico, that just leaves me and you then. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, what are you going to rate Jaws?
So, Jaws is the definitive don't go in the ocean movie. It even punned that phrase. So, I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Oh, okay.
I'm only taking the 0.5 off because of what I was talking about earlier, where it's one of those ones where, you know, the older it gets, the more it forgets it's in the peripheral of folks' memories, you know.
Okay. I genuinely didn't like with everything that you were saying about it. I genuinely didn't think you were going to go that high with it.
No, it's fucking great
I mean,
for.
I'm not saying I think you were going to give it like a fucking 6 or something. But I thought you were going to maybe be like an 8.5, possibly a 9.
No, I was always going to be a 9 or above with this movie, and it was it's just the rewatch on it. Just seeing the shark. The shark took like the half point off for me, and it's a bit like on the peripheral. So 9.5 is fine.
Well, Nico, for the second week running,
You do the same score.
I'm also giving this movie a 9. I might give it a 9.4. Just no, I'll give it a 9.
So it's a 9.5.
I'm also gonna give this a 9.5 out of 10. Listen, there's nothing I think I could change about this movie. The animatronic shark has nowhere near as big an impact for me than I think it does for you in terms of, you know, how it's aged and how bad it looks. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I think they've cast it perfectly. I think the score's incredible. The only thing that's stopping me from going any higher with this is that there are just other movies I prefer.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
Like if Oliver Reed was in this, I think it would be number one.
I can't think of any other movies. I can't think of anything to improve upon this movie. There's just stuff I would rather watch. So therefore,
Just put Oliver Reed in it. Just honestly, Oliver Reed all the way.
and so anyway, so therefore I will give it also a 9.5 out of 10. So Nico, now on our show we advertise obviously the ratings down to a single decimal point. But obviously, when it comes to movies that are tied, I have to go further. I rank them obviously by further decimal points. On average, so given our scores, the critics, and you guys, the listeners, Jaws has on an average score of 9.2 out of 10. It becomes only the third movie on this podcast to get an overall score higher than a 9, and it puts it in second place on our leaderboard.
Second, fucking hell.
It does also. Alien maintains top spot. It also has a 9.2, but it has a higher, obviously. It's like 9. I can't remember. I think it was like 9.29 or something. And this, I need to sit and work it out, but drops ever so slightly under that. So it's in second place, literally by a ball hair. It's not literally, but I just said it. So it means it's one place below Alien and one place above It hurts my soul that Halloween is now in third.
Yeah, and when we do Aliens, it'll be in fourth.
I mean, that's fine, because when we do Aliens, that'll push Lost Boys down to 13th.
13th is a great number.
Is it? Okay. Yes, second place. So in terms of our top 10 as well, that now knocks The Cabin in the Woods out of the top 10.
Cool.
I mean, I think that was always one that we knew would never last in the top 10. That was one that was simply there just because we hadn't reviewed a lot of the top 10 caliber movies.
Yeah.
But that's still in 11th place. So our top 10, for those who are interested, is now shaping up like this. So in 10th place right now we have The Shining. So The Shining is in danger of dropping out of the top 10, you know, if we decide to do one of the other classics. In 9th place is A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep.
In 8th place is Dog Soldiers. 7th place is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. The Omen in 6th. Reanimator in 5th. The Thing in 4th. Halloween in 3rd. Jaws in 2nd. And Alien is still number 1.
Fuck.
What do you think is gonna... Do you think there's much out there that will dislodge... Do you genuinely think Aliens would dislodge it? Because remember...
Yeah.
We might think it's better, but it has to be everyone thinks it's better.
But it's part of the Holy Trinity.
No. I get that. I'm not disagreeing with that, but
everyone agrees with the Holy Trinity. I've not met anyone that doesn't.
Critics, you genuinely don't think there'll be critics out there? The possibility that there's got a fucking random 7 on Metacritic or something stupid like that. That happens for like everything.
Oh, I know weird shit happens, but
I, I,
Aliens is just
I've got,
so iconic.
I've got a funny feeling that Aliens might not end up as high as you think. Hey, well, for
Really?
us, I'm not saying I agree with it. I have a gut feeling.
I think Aliens is definitely going to top the board.
Anything else you think will go above it?
Exorcist could go up there.
You think Exorcist could make it? I don't think Exorcist would get it.
Really?
I just don't think it would. I just don't think it would. And then I'm starting to really struggle to think of movies like horror movies that are so widely loved that they would even come close.
I'm still in shock that fucking The Shining's not near there.
10th place. The Shining has. I mean, The Shining has an overall 8.2.
I know.
I think did we not review The Shining when we were? I was still on my Doctor Strange, Doctor Sleep,
Doctor Sleep.
Doctor Sleep hatred tour.
Probably, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, Jaws up in second place. We didn't really expect it to be much.
I didn't expect it to be that high.
Yeah, you were expecting it to be. What did you say? 7th, 8th, or 9th?
Yeah,
It's almost.
I push. I thought it'd been 5th or 6th.
It's almost a whole point. It's 0.9 above 7th place, so it's like mild. It's way out ahead. So yeah. Anyways, that is going to do it for this week's show. It's always good when the top or the bottom of our leaderboard gets displaced because they tend to be the parts of the leaderboard that change the least. So yeah. It's good to get a movie up there. That's a couple of movies we've done in the last couple of months that have been up there. The Thing, we covered that. That's now in 4th now, but it was 3rd when we did the review on it. So yeah, the leaderboard is fairly taking shape. We're getting the classics out there. We've got some absolute classics coming up for everyone over the course of the next few weeks. With this, of course, at the time of release, this being the 15th of October, we are slap bang in the middle of spooky season. And so our next 3 episodes will be our Halloween themed episodes. Remembering that last year I chose Trick or Treat. Not Nico choosing that like he tried to claim last week. But
I knew I didn't choose it. I was just trying to piss you off.
Nico picked Hubie Halloween last week, and it's fair to say.
Yes, I did.
I think obviously now knowing your pick, we've kind of done, I think, mildly similar, where I've gone for maybe what's seen as a more traditional Halloween movie, and you've gone for something that's if we had done the original, it wouldn't have been in left field, but because we're doing the sequel, it's a little out of left field, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So
would you like me to reveal what I'm doing?
Oh, I'm just a way to go through them first, and then I'll let you reveal. So next week is my Halloween pick, and so for my Halloween pick, we are going to be reviewing Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers, because we can't do enough Halloween reviews on this movie, to be quite honest. We've done the first 3. It's time for Halloween 4. After we've done that, we've only got 9 other Halloween movies to review, so I'm very much looking forward to doing number 4. The week after, although we'll be dropping episodes slightly more regularly as well, so we can try and fit them all in before Halloween. The week after will be the listener pick, and the listeners that got put to a vote, and the listeners have chosen for us to review Terrifier 2. So we will be reviewing Terrifier 2 after that. And then finally, the official Halloween episode that will be dropping on Tuesday the 31st instead of traditional Wednesday. We normally drop our episodes on a Wednesday, but Wednesday will be the 1st of November, so we're going to drop it on the Tuesday. It's going to be Nico's choice, and Nico, we're reviewing...
Since there's a Friday the 13th in this month, I'm going to be doing Jason Takes Manhattan. I'm joking.
You changed your fucking mind.
We're doing Hocus Pocus 2.
We're doing Hocus Pocus 2.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought I'd make the joke about Friday the 13th.
Yeah, funny.
Your face did tell a million. Like, you were like, fuck you.
Boomer says he got really excited there for a second. Are you not excited about Hocus Pocus 2?
He knows that Jason Takes Manhattan is the epitome of so bad it's good.
We really need to get a start on the Friday the 13th franchise. We haven't reviewed any of the movies in that franchise yet. It's probably one of the last big franchises that we've not even started.
I thought we were doing Friday the 13th, the original one soon.
We are. It's on my schedule for between now and the end of the year. Boomer just says no. No, Boomer is not excited for Hocus Pocus 2. And he says Jason Goes to Hell is the ultimate so bad it's good.
Yeah, I must admit that is fucking.
But
very,
anyways,
very
that
good.
is our Halloween lineup for this year. So we're doing Halloween 4, Terrifier 2, and Hocus Pocus 2. So I think that's a pretty good lineup this year. I think we've got traditional slasher in Halloween 4. We've got modern grindhouse ultra gore in Terrifier 2. And we've got something for the kids in Hocus Pocus 2. I think we've got a good mix this year. So that's what's coming up over the course of the next few weeks. In between, and that'll take us also up to episode 94. As I've been saying for weeks now, we're getting ever closer to that elusive 100th episode. I think it's going to fall for us in December, our 100th episode. So by the time we get to December, we might actually not do a huge amount of movie reviews in December. Because obviously December is Christmas season, and we will be doing our last episode of the year will be our awards episode as traditionally. We'll also, if we have our 100th episode fall in there, we'll have to do just like our 100th episode celebration, which will not be a movie review. And our 101st episode is going to be our re-ranking episode, so that's also not going to be a movie review. And that's going to take up 3 episodes of the month for December. So I think in the month of December, we'll simply just have mine and your Christmas picks, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
I need to
ask you the question, Nico, because last year we picked Christmas horror movies. Well, we didn't actually last year. It was the year before. Last year we took a break. We didn't do any Christmas movies last year. I picked Gremlins and you picked Krampus.
Yeah.
So this year, Nico, I'm going to give you the option. We could either carry on doing Christmas horror movies, or we can just do flat out Christmas movies.
Ooh. Then we would have to have the Die Hard debate.
Well, then that theoretically could be your choice.
But no, I think we should stick with the Christmas horror.
Stick with Christmas horror. Maybe have a Die Hard.
Or do you want to do the not a Christmas movie, the like any movie, and they pick it for the whole month?
What do you mean?
Well, remember we're discussing like doing like an action movie and all that stuff, and getting the viewers to pick it.
Oh, like they pick our entire Christmas movie schedule.
Yeah, so it could be any movie as long as it's not horror.
And you want us to do that for Christmas?
Could do that for Christmas, yeah.
Could do that for
that's a good time to do it.
Okay, well, I can certainly get
because you can't get more anti-Halloween than Christmas, you know what I mean?
So it doesn't, so any Christmas, so we're going to put it out to the viewers and the listeners, so there you go, see, an exclusive here on the live episode, that we're going to put it to a poll and to votes, and you guys, it has to be a Christmas movie, but just not a horror Christmas movie.
Or it can be any movie whatsoever, just not horror.
Oh, so it doesn't even have to be a Christmas movie, just any movie. So we're not going to review Christmas movies this year.
It could be a silent movie. It could be a fucking musical.
Please don't pick a silent movie. What the fuck are we going to have to talk about?
No, it could be anything but a horror movie.
Oh, so we could call it could be like anything but Christmas.
Yeah, anything but horror, basically.
Okay.
Because it is the month where it is the epitome of not horror.
Boomer says Street Fighter again. I'm not reviewing Street Fighter again.
Why? There's a follow-up. John Lee's story.
I don't care. I have no interest in watching Street Fighter's movies. Anyways,
the follow-up is actually decent. It's her from, what's it called? Smallville. That's the one from it.
Cool. Anyways, we're rabbiting on now, as we tend to do at the end of these episodes. So we're gonna start saying our goodbyes. Like I say, next week. So we might be recording, depending on obviously your schedule, Nico, because you're gonna be working quite a lot. So we're gonna have to try and squeeze in a couple of
somewhere.
A couple of recordings. So our next recording might not be next Sunday. It might be before. It might be after. It's just whenever we can sort of squeeze it in. To fit around our schedules. And I'll talk to you briefly once we've end the stream. I think I could have a potential recording if you're going to be free for it.
Cool.
So, yeah, anyways, we'll put that out onto the socials as always we do. That's X at Damn Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Pod of the Damned. Email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com. Subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. That next recording, like I say, will be on Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, and then we'll be doing Terrifier 2 as well. So I'll say thank you, Nico, for joining me on this episode.
Thank you for having me on again, and she is still here, by the way.
She is still here. We didn't get a butthole!
I know.
We've got no cat butthole.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, last shot of the stream. Thank you very much to all of our viewers and listeners for joining us as always. If you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you for downloading and listening to this episode. And until next week on the Pod of the Damned, just remember, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.